Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice Podcast, episode 228. I'm the host, Kim Newlove. We're talking about ezetimibe today. What is ezetimibe? If you ask a patient who takes it, they'll say, "It's my cholesterol medicine." And that would be technically correct, so we'll pretty much leave it at that. It is a cholesterol lowering medication. Now, when I was out in community practice working at Walgreens, I first saw this drug on the shelf, 15 plus years ago, and I could say the brand name just fine, Zetia. Zetia is the brand name. When I saw the generic, however, I avoided saying it. I avoided saying the generic for Zetia. And that is actually the reason that ezetimibe is featured in today's episode. I didn't know how to say ezetimibe until I researched it, and maybe you have that same problem too. Now, if you're new to my drug name pronunciation episodes, welcome. I break down drug names into syllables, explain which syllable has the emphasis, reveal the source of the information, and then I put the written pronunciation in the show notes on the pharmacistvoice.com so you can see it and use it right away. I know what it's like to struggle to say drug names. So, the purpose of these episodes is to provide the intended pronunciations of drug names from reliable sources so that you feel more confident saying them and less frustrated learning them. I hope this episode helps. Let's go. Ezetimibe has 4 syllables. I, which is the short E sound, kind of like the E in bed. I also think it sounds like a schwa E. Zet is the second syllable that rhymes with pet, and this syllable gets emphasized the most. Zet. I, as in illusion, I, and mibe, which rhymes with vibe. Put it all together and you get ezetimibe. Remember, emphasize zet. See if you can hear all the syllables and that one with the emphasis when I say it slowly. Ezetimibe. Ezetimibe. How did I crack the code? How did I know how to say ezetimibe? I looked it up in my favorite generic drug name reference. It is called the USP Dictionary Online. If you're unfamiliar with the USP Dictionary, it is a subscription based online reference. The dictionary breaks drug names down into syllables. It tells me which syllables to emphasize, and it provides a pronunciation guide so I can tell if the vowels are long or short. Now, on that topic of long and short vowels, with ezetimibe, you have to use a long I sound in the last syllable, mibe, because the pronunciation guide tells me that when there's an I in the last syllable and the syllable ends with the letter E, the vowel will have a long sound. That means it's a long I like ice cream or eyeball instead of a short I like in illusion. I hope that makes sense. Drug names are not normal words, and you can't always pronounce them correctly just by sounding them out. I know I didn't get it right when I tried to sound it out. I used to say something like Ezetimibe. Okay, I said it. All right, I screwed up. I didn't know how to say this one, but now I know it's ezetimibe. Thanks for joining me today to learn how to say ezetimibe. To find the show notes for this episode, go to thepharmacistvoice.com, click on the podcast tab, and search for episode 228. In the show notes, you'll find the written pronunciation of ezetimibe, a link to the USP Dictionary online, a link to the pronunciation guide that is used in the USP Dictionary, my social media links, and more. If you know someone who would like to learn how to say ezetimibe, please share this episode with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Join me this Friday, July 7th, for the next episode in my Pharmacist Authors series. It's my interview with Rear Admiral Pam Schweitzer, PharmD, and her daughter Amy Graves about their children's book, Alice and Jack Hike the Grand Canyon. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you on Friday. Thanks for sticking around, and now for the bonus. And for the bonus, I've invited a special guest to come onto the podcast today. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Well, hello, my name is Nathan. I'm the Pharmacist Voice's husband.
Nathan, thanks for being on the show today. I would like you to pronounce 5 drug names that have been on my podcast during the drug name pronunciation series. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, here they are. There are 5 of them. Feel free to go from number 1 to number 5. I'll put these in the show notes if you want to follow along.
All right. Number 1, Ezetimibe. Number 2, metoprolol. Number 3, talamagene laparpapic. Latherparpapic. Number 4, ezipiculone. And number 5, carisoprodol.
Round of applause, honey. Good job. All right, the real reason I had him say these, and by the way, number 1 was Ezetimibe. That was the drug name for today.
Close.
You were so close, honey. Number 2 is metoprolol. That is from episode 177. That is the 8th in this series, and the most popular episode in this series by far, with hundreds of downloads. Number 3 was Telimagene Laher-Perepvac, or TVAC. That's from episode 159, the 6th episode in this series. Number 4 was S-Zopiclone. That's from episode 134. That was actually the first episode in this series. The 5th and final one was, do you remember what it is, honey? How do you say it again?
Carisoprodol.
Carisoprodol. And that was episode 198, the 13th in this series, the unlucky 13th one, because it turned out to be the hardest one. Actually, I think you struggled the most with Telimagene Laher-Perepvac, which that's okay. That is a tough one. Took me a little while to learn that too. So anyways, the reason that we are talking about this today is that when I was in college and I would be studying, whether it was something medical terminology, anatomy and pathophysiology, biochemistry, pharmacology, anything, Nathan would come into my room while I was studying and distract me and start reading the drug names or the names of whatever I was reading. And it would distract me and make me smile and crack me up, just like I'm cracking up today. We just celebrated 22 years of marriage. Congratulations to us. I love you, honey. And he still cracks me up even today. Nathan, would you like to say anything?
Yes, that is a true story. I would come in and try to cheer you up. The funny thing was, I was not intentionally mispronouncing them. I was actually trying my hardest. There would be a few times I would intentionally say something wrong, but for the most part, I would try to say them correctly. And Kim would just completely lose it and laugh, and she'd be in a great mood. And then, my job was done. So I'm glad that I still have not lost my touch after 22 years of being married. I still have it. I cannot pronounce these words. So I'll stick to engineering.
Actually been together for 30 years, married for 22. So yeah, he's been cracking me up for a few decades now. All right. Thanks, Nathan, for being on the podcast.
Thank you.